am Cheryl Paul, the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Data here at Bradford, and I'm going to take the next few minutes to explain a little bit to you about our ISLPs, or Individual Student Learning Plans. Every child, grades K through 12 at Bradford, has an Individual Student Learning Plan, and these are used to track and target students, both their individual strengths and weaknesses, in hopes to promote them even further along in their learning. And it's also used to have an open line of communication across content areas and between teachers and parents. Depending on what grade level your child is in, their ISLPs will all run just a little bit differently. Our elementary ISLPs are for grades K through 5. These ISLPs serve sort of like a portfolio. It's a way to hold all of the students' standardized assessment information as well as their classroom assessment information all in one spot. We have folders, and each student has a folder, and the folder is kept with their classroom teacher. The cover of the folder has a sheet that has the students' Scantron scores for fall, winter, and spring. It talks about their gains from fall to winter and winter to spring. It has their DRA scores, their DIBEL scores, and it also has a little area for planning in which the teacher can jot down notes as to how to help each individual student in their areas of weakness or to promote them in their areas of strength. When you open the inside cover of the elementary ISLP, there is a document that has the students' 3 goals for the students to work on when it comes to our Scantron tests in the areas of math and reading, as well as a graph that shows where the student scored versus where he or she needs to be for that subject area. The next sheet you'll find is a placement indicator for the Scantron. So a parent and a teacher could sit down and say, my student scored a 1900 in math on the Scantron in the fall. Where does that place my child in that grade level? Are they below? Are they above? Are they at risk? Are they into the next grade level already? And it's a good way for the parents to see exactly within the range and grade level where their child performed on the Scantron. The next document in an ISLP would be a copy of the student's DRA score and how they got the score that is written on the outside of the ISLP that their student scored when they took that assessment. So a parent could sit down and see exactly how a DRA test is given to show how the teacher came up with that student's individual grade, as well as an indicator as to what placement that grade would give that individual student. The next sheet in our ISLP is every child who took our Scantron, grades 2 through 8, got a letter sent home talking about each individual student's growth. We set a 1-year growth goal, and we broke that in half and set a half-year goal from the fall to the winter, and then another half-year goal will be set from the winter to the spring, as well as their college readiness benchmark for that grade level and subject area to make sure that parents are fully aware of what it is that we need their students to score on the Scantron and where their students are at in getting to those individual scores. The ISLPs also served as a place to have a copy of a letter that went home to all of our parents that is the parent portal information about how to get in to the parent portal in PowerSchool, which has a large amount of information about the student's attendance, the student's grades, and it's very open line of communication between what the student is doing in the classroom, and so that the parents can see what days their students were absent, what assignments they may have been missing, or grades that they may or may not have turned in on the due dates, assignments they may or may not have turned in on the due dates. The next thing that every ISLP has on the back cover is the suggested learning objectives for each subject area for the Scantron, which would be science, reading, and math. This document shows what the student has successfully mastered and what the student still needs to master. And it serves as a checklist for teachers to look at the suggested learning objective for each subject area and mark off once they have gone back and retaught that area to the child. When it comes to the lower grades in elementary, it's a great way for the teachers to group their kids based off of the amount of them that have the same suggested learning goal in common. And they can take, maybe there's 6 students who need to work on determining the missing add-in in a number sentence. That teacher can group those 6 students together and work specifically on those learning objectives to help catch the child up to where they need to be prior to taking the next assessment. And again, these are held in each of the teachers' classrooms, and they should be used during conferences or during parent meetings to be able to share all of this information with the parent and have it all at their fingertips for better communication between parents and teachers. Our middle school ISLPs, which is grades 6 through 8, are very similar to our elementary, yet have a couple different areas that it highlights on due to the fact that they are used alongside our after-school program, our academic acceleration. So, like elementary, every middle school student has a folder, and that folder holds different assessments, different classroom assessments, standardized test information, and they are held in the homeroom teacher's classroom. So when you open up the middle school ISLP, there's going to be a document, and this is used to promote our academic acceleration after school. Anytime a child scores lower than a 70% in the core subject area, the individual student's ISLP goes to that teacher. The teacher then records the date, the subject, and the area of concern that is putting that student into academic acceleration, as well as the enter grade. So, perhaps a student is scoring a 69% the Monday of a week. This ISLP would then go to that student's individual teacher in which they're scoring the lower than 70% in. The teacher writes in what their grade is, what they need to work on, and also puts any work or assignments into this folder that could help that student bring that grade up above a 70 before the end of the week. This then travels to as many teachers as it needs to, because in middle school our students switch classes, so it may have to go to the reading teacher and the science teacher or the writing teacher to get all the needed information for that student to have this folder with them in our after-school program, which runs Tuesday through Thursday after school. And in this specific folder, the student had to go to academic acceleration this week for science. So there are samples of science work that are in here that the student can work on. There was also math was another area that the student needed to work on. So there's specific math assignments based on exactly what the student is doing in class that can help them after school to bring their grade above a 70%. And just like in our elementary, the last sheet in the ISLP is the same suggested learning objectives that we had in our elementary ISLP. That shows what the student has successfully mastered and what the student still needs to work on, and it serves as a checklist where the teacher can check mark off once they have hit those specific areas. And last are our high school ISLPs. Those are for grades 9 through 12, and they run a little bit differently from our elementary and middle school. Our high school ISLPs, every teacher has a binder, and that binder has a set of ISLPs for every student that they see. So instead of having one, each student would have one ISLP, not for in general, they'd have one for every teacher and every subject area that they see. Anytime a student scores lower than a 70%, whether it be on a project, homework, or a quiz, a project, a test, or a quiz, the teacher needs to mark that in the student's ISLP, as well as giving a reason for why the student scored lower and what intervention strategy that teacher could use and will use to help promote that student's grade above a 70%. So if a teacher gives a quiz and the student scores a 63%, the teacher is going to write that in the student's ISLP, write what objective they were working on and what intervention strategy the teacher is going to do to improve that student's grade above a 63%. And they also have to date it for when they completed that intervention strategy. Just like in the elementary and the middle school, these should be used to communicate with parents for where their children are academically, what areas of weakness or areas of strength in which they can work on or use to further promote. So as a whole, every student, grade K through 12, has an ISLP that holds all of their needed and important assessment information, as well as is able to target where the student's strengths and weaknesses are in order to catch them up if they're behind or promote them farther if they are at or above grade level.